Okay, on my last two videos, the first one was talking about responding to a comment that I received on my why Trump defunding public schools is actually a good thing. So I wanted to go over 10 bullet points to kind of really talk about this. And like I said, it's late, I'm tired, but I had to get it out because I don't want people to have a misconception of what I'm saying. I'm not speaking against public school. I'm not speaking against home or private school. What I'm saying is the machine in the educational system itself has gotten out of hand, and I feel like it's moving towards a collapse. There's an article that I wanted to mention on the last video that talks about why schools are relaxing or lowering their standards for licensing for teaching. And I've always been an advocate of licensing and everything, but it doesn't mean that you're not a good teacher if you don't have the credentials. I've always believed that as well too. If you can prove and teach a subject, it doesn't matter. For example, I've always believed in, like, say, a plumber can sometimes do better work than a licensed plumber, but the licensed plumber is going to know the technicalities and going to be able to move more places without the liability. He's going to be insured, etc., etc. But it doesn't mean that the quality of the work of the non-licensed person could be better than a licensed person, or the non-licensed person could have more experience. So I understand that caveat. However, the machine I explained before means that they're just trying to fill the building with bodies to babysit the kids is what's really going on. So that's why they have to lower their standards so they can accept more white people, but they still can't get people to go in. And let me break down some of the reasons why. So overall, I realize it's going to be a course of discussions that's going to happen, and I can talk more in detail, more loosely, relaxedly in my talks channel podcast. So check that out as well too. It's going to be more, how do you put it, raw and in-depth. So, but I'm just going to touch on the highlights I have here. Okay, first question I'm going to address is, how much do public and private homeschools take in taxes? Now, realize that a homeschool usually, in most cases, will take no taxes, but a lot of people complain about their property taxes being raised. Guess what? Well, guess what? If the teachers want to get paid more, public school system way to do it is to raise your property taxes. But after a while, you're going to realize that's BS, because there's ways to, they have enough money based on the population of students that they get and other funding that they get to pay teachers more. It's just that they're trying to pay the teachers as little as they can and stuff them with as much students as they can get. The same way, the food that they feed the kids as less nutritional as possible, as cheap as they can get it, for the most money these companies can get it to the schools for. So that's the first point. How much do public, private, and homeschools take in taxes? Bullet point 2. How much dollar amount per student affects the classroom size? So once again, I said in my last video, I've been at some schools where I had 30, 40 plus students. And then if a teacher is out for the day sick, or just don't want to show up for work to 2, 3, 4 weeks and didn't realize they transferred schools or quit, hint, hint, your classroom gets stuffed with 40, 50 kids sometimes. Sometimes kids don't even have a seat to sit in. These are things I never discussed because I didn't want the dirty laundry to be out, and I would never do something like that. But because I'm not giving specifics on what school, where, when, why. But all I'm saying is that type of stuff goes on, and guess what? The schools still get paid that $15,000, whatever. Just sub your state. I'll leave the map right here. The $10,000, $20,000. Just sub your state. Okay, they're gonna stuff as many people as they can in that classroom, and that's why you have those large classrooms, because the more students, the more money. They don't care if they're learning, etc. How food companies profit from public school. Like I said, this is a big machine. So if you got guaranteed contracts for every 3 years or however long, you are going to make sure that those institutions run. Kids, a lot of kids didn't want to eat. Now, granted, there was some foods and things that they like, but for the most part, did not want to eat the food that the company offered. But I'm assuming that the food was as cheap as they could get it, and the contracts that could keep these food companies coming back to these schools. Now, alternatively, I want to talk about this. In a homeschool situation, why not go to Sal's Pizza? Why not have the local catering business or the local church fund those areas to provide lunches and catering, or a catering service that's a small business? See, lunch could look like that as well too, and it would cost a lot less. And it's not trying to fund these big food corporations that want to take these big contracts. And so that's what I'm saying. If you notice that your gas is higher, you notice that your property tax is higher, just research it. I'm not talking. Just research it for yourself. If schools want more money, they're going to raise your property taxes. Now, let me ask you this. What homeschool or private school have you heard of lately that's raised your property taxes? I'll wait. Or took more out of your income tax? I'll wait. Let me know in the comments section some. But I know that every year public schools need more money to pay their teachers when it's already there. We'll prove that as time goes on. Maintenance companies benefit from public schools. So let's talk about that. You need this pressure washer school. You need a landscaping company. What happens when the pipe busts? What about HVAC companies? You think that these companies want these institutions or machines to shut down? Absolutely not. See, I had the acumen to see these things going on. And I wasn't trying to pull in at this institution by creating my thing to pull from public school. It had nothing to do with that. There's a large group of parents that were pulling their students out because they were not satisfied with how their child was treated. And we don't have any talk about CeeLo Academy for that. Really, it's a learning center intended to enhance and fill those gaps in technology, art, design, graphic design, and those type of things. And it doesn't have to be just students. It could be adults, or a separate class at a different time. But my focus was now, so because of liabilities and things, an appropriate age where people can absorb the information, probably start a business or create something of their own. They maybe their own clothing brand, shoe designs, or whatever. But the point of what I'm saying is, imagine a smaller school and the outreach it could do for the community. Like, families of the students could be part of providing the services or the food. And there's no conflict of interest there. It's just that rather than having these families struggle and be in Title I, they could start businesses that could help be a part of the school. And so you can't do that with public school. So moving on. Next bullet point. Print and apparel companies benefit. Sports teams, cheerleading, all the clubs and organizations. If you are already a shop that's in the school and already tied in with whatever schools or how many schools, good luck trying to be the print guy for these establishments, because it's already locked in step in who they want. Now, I'm not saying that there's just a total what you would call blackball or ban for just exclusivity, but all business is fair, and if you could present your product cheaper and better, then you have some chance of getting those contracts. And I'm not saying that it's impossible. What I'm saying is it can be a monopoly and some bias when you're trying to gain contracts in print and apparel. So next up, sports companies benefit. So the helmets, the pads, baseball bats. You understand what I'm getting at? Schools are huge institutions that there's a lot of people that have a vested interest to make sure that your child goes to that school, and it has nothing to do with them learning. Understand that. So I want us to kind of, especially parents, if you're a student listening to this, Open your mind up a little bit. Think about, okay, so I'm on the baseball team. I spend this much on my uniform, my helmet. Could I come up with a design for my team? Could I possibly sell some baseballs? Or, I want students to be thinking about how they can have a stake in what they enjoy. It's only fair. But I don't want to get off in the weeds, but for example, sports, Spalding or whatever, they have a vested interest to keep, especially middle school, high school sports, keep those contracts there. Okay. Now, this is one you might have glossed over and didn't even think about it. SATs, book publishers and school supplies. So all the testing that makes money. I remember we used to do certifications that cost a lot of money. And these were industry certifications. And I don't talk about my credentials because, everything's still intact. And even when I left after, I explained what I did in my CeeLo Academy, what happened as far as, the dispensation of my departure. But everything I had was intact. My standard and professionalism always was intact. You could see by my work. But I don't boast and brag about that. That's not what's important. What's important is bringing awareness to a certain situation and helping you understand that you have a choice. You don't have to go with the status quo. You can be a part of the cog in the machine, or you can be a cog in the machine in this other machine. You have a choice. But digital subscriptions, digital software subscriptions, CMSs, learning management systems, have contracts. I'm pretty sure Zoom has a contract with schools, but the digital software contracts, all the software, your words, just understand that public school is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. Even if it's the worst thing in the world, it is not going anywhere, because what I'm telling you is, if you're in the loop, if you're working for a corporation or company, you can benefit off of a school. So it's kind of asinine or crazy to say that this little guy over here who is a former teacher is trying to take advantage or is trying to do something for my own benefit. Well, what are all those companies trying to do? If you are a teacher and you go to a public school and you put up with what you put up with, do not lie to me. You might be sitting here right now wanting to go out this place, that place, but you got to stay in and you got to grade 100 and something papers. And you got to do that 3, 4, 5 days out the week. So what I'm saying is, you can't front, because I've been in those shoes, and you can't tell me that you're not trying to make a living, because you are. You got bills to pay. You got a car payment. You got rent. You got food. And you can't shame anyone, especially one thing about social media people. I don't care if it's TikTok. You can concur with me out there. Twitch, Rumble, YouTube is my home team, but I don't, I try to diversify a little bit. My Instagram people, we got thick skin. So you cannot shame us and say, oh, get a real job, so to speak, because what you have to understand is even companies now need social media presence to even turn profits in there. So Walmart needs a social media presence. Target needs a social media presence. So keep in mind, if you're a social media person and you're listening to this, look at what happened to the TikTok ban. I think TikTok brings in 6.8 million, a billion. You could correct me in the comment section below. But there were some people, some kids who uploaded videos who make 5 times what I used to make as a teacher. So that's what you got to keep in mind is these people that make these apps and these contracts, you got to keep in mind there's a benefit to why they either A, want you to stay in that building, in that institution, because they can profit. So that's the point I'm bringing home. Public school is not going anywhere, but you need to be aware of what it is. Technology and computer companies. This is a huge one. iMacs, tablets, keyboards, desktop computers, smart, what do you call those? The smart board. I forget the name. Forgive me. I've been out of public teaching for so long. It's these little technical boards that are like markers, so you don't have to use markers anymore. I forget what their name. You know, any new leading technology. You know, you don't see a lot of schools with 3D printers because that was a new, edge thing, but you might see more of them as the late. Let me know if there's a 3D printer, not just one for the whole school. Like, is there a 3D printer in every classroom in your school? Let me know in the comment section. But technology companies benefit majorly on schools, public school. All right. Number 9, the transportation department. Guys, you know how much gas is spent picking up to and from buses, to and from home to school, field trips. So you got to understand fuel costs. There's a lot of fuel being spent for public schools. And you can fill in the blanks however, they fill in. Transportation period, as far as like getting food services to and from. Gas is fuel's being spent. And as long as fuel's being spent, money's being spent. Vehicle manufacturers, tire companies. You got to start adding this up. Which is why it's not just, how do I put it? It's not just naysayers. Some of those naysayers may be owners of corporations and companies, which is why in the public mindset, they don't want you to have this knowledge. They don't want you to know that public school is really a big corporation. And it's less to do with why we're having so much problems, why they're lowering the standard and taking teachers that are not licensed or not up to the standards, because a lot of teachers that have been in there a long time, longevity teachers, have left the profession because of the corruption and because of the exploitation that occurred, has gone on in public school. So yes, when a machine gets so big, not only the students just become a number, the teachers just become a number too. So this is what a lot of people don't know. Utilities department. Now, I touched on this. I had a comment. I wonder if I could find it, but if I find the comment, I will bring it up. But forgive me, I'll leave the comment on the screen. The quote more or less said, this comes from a guy who owns a private school who's going to benefit off of the transfer when Trump does his transfer from public to private, and that I'm just making this video because I'm going to benefit off of it and his solar program. Now, understand this. Another reason why renewable energy is not as popular for schools, let's say all the schools get solar panels or, to supplement the electrical costs. That's going to take the electricity used by the school down, which is bad for the economy, meaning the electrical industry has to hire people, has to, keep people employed. And when you have electricity making itself, guys, it does down numbers for money in a way. I'm not going to say that's completely true. There's ways to be creative and work around it. But like I said, that comment there was, I think, uninformed. And no shots to you. I want to address your comments so you can understand it better. But the fringe group, and I addressed this in the previous video, won't affect the big machine, corporation machine that needs a electrical company to spend a bunch of money using all this stuff and keeping the lights on. And they're not passing that buck to you. So private and home schools are not passing the buck to you and raising your taxes by me using my solar panels. Okay, so, those are things you have to consider. And if inflation is going up, you need more disposable income. You don't need it wasted on electricity. Sorry. I mean, you got to start really thinking about the comments that are there. So utilities, that could be electric, water, gas, you name some utilities in the comments I forgot, insurance companies, all maintain this machine. And then you have the political space, and that was the last bullet point. There's more, but the political space. So the minds of your kids, the minds of your cousins, the minds of your nephew, the minds of the teachers, the principals. You have to understand, a lot of principals probably thinking they were doing something, making $250,000 a year. And some were running poor schools. I mean, like poor, low performing schools. And believe it or not, in some cases, the lower performing you are and the more impoverished your area is, the more money they get. Research that. Now, I'm bringing this up to say there's a war of the minds. And I hate to put it this way, but they rather you be a slave and be a cog in the machine and not be aware and then look down on the little guy. The hot dog stand guy is important. So he may have found a way to make a living for himself by setting up his hot dog stand. He might not be able to afford, let's say, a whole building, but he is able to afford that cart, and he's able to feed his family off that hot dog stand or that hot dog cart. So what I'm saying is, don't crap on the little guy. So if you have a teacher who is passionate, who's had years of experience, who will literally take little of everything that he has to establish what he believes in, you support that person. Or else bad karma comes back on you. And the best thing you can do for a person like that is to get out the way. If you're not going to support the person, go somewhere else. At least you could do is, if you're not going to support the person monetarily, then contribute some way. So if I have ads on my videos or something, I'll just give me for an example. You don't have the money or don't want to donate, watch the ads. That way I get paid for the ad revenue. If you watch the video for free, hit the like button. If you think the video is impactful and can change someone's life, share the video out. These are free ways that you can support, especially content creators. Just remember that if you have a relative, family, or friend, or if you have someone you know that's a content creator, you can help them by just watching the commercials or like hitting the like button or sharing. So there's a lot of different ways you could support someone without supporting monetarily. So it's not about the money. Obviously, I've laid it out so you can understand that. And teachers, you probably recognize this, but not to this degree. I wanted to make sure, this is for my teachers out there, that your salary can be done with 6 students in one classroom. You can support 15 teachers with 100 students. And you can make upwards of $100,000 a year with 6 students, period. Not 6 per, not having 24, 6 times 4 is 24, not 6, 6, 6, and 6. 6 for the whole day, the whole 8 hours. I mean, of course, you will want to rotate to keep things fresh, 90 minutes, 45 minutes, however long your classes are. But think about that. I did the numbers, and I'll do it again real quick, briefly for this video, and then I will close out. And hopefully, you enjoyed this video. And if you have comments, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a principal, whatever, drop a comment in the comment section below. I'll do the numbers again. So I just use a general, I kind of average it in my mind. Here's the map up here, $15,000 per student. Just sub in how many students you have in the classroom at a time. We'll just say 20, okay? $15,000. Okay, 15000 times, let's say you have 20 students, and just as a roll call, guys, if you're a teacher, drop how many students you've had in the classroom at one time, just the most you've had. I'm just going to use 20 as a regular number. Guys, that's $300,000. That's one class. One class that you teach, not your whole student load, your whole student body load for the semester or for the year. This is one class. $300,000 is what that school is getting for the 20 students that you have. Now, we're gonna say you have 3 classes. Times that by 3. And that's $900,000. Now, you're making 50. You're making 45. Some of you are, like I said, the laws got more lax. So some of you are substitute teachers making $12, $14, $18, $25 an hour and teaching this many students. Some of you are teachers assistants taking on full load classrooms, but being paid as a teacher assistant. The school is making $900,000 every semester. You're making 35. So who's robbing who? I'm putting this food for thought to say there's no point in raising property taxes to pay. Well, that's a misnomer. Forgive me for that. They have to raise property taxes because they don't really earn anything. The public school funding for this money that you see here comes from us. So every dime we spend, all the hard sweat equity work at that job we don't like, you fill it in, doesn't matter. We pay for it involuntarily. So you need to ask yourself this question, and I urge you out there. Is your child given the quality education that they deserve for the amount of money that you spend every year involuntarily? And if you think you're a person that doesn't pay, say for example you have assistants or whatever, or you say your student goes to school for free, but it is not free. The school is making at least, I would say, a range from $10,000 to $35,000 for your child every year. What do you get from that? So with that being said, it's not all about the money, but I just pointed that out to show you when they stuff over the capacity of what they can handle in your classroom, they're doing it because the more students they have, the more money they make. Has nothing to do with the student learning. Now that to me is worse than anybody who decides to start a homeschool or a small private school could ever do. So with that being said, of course people are going to disagree. Of course people who have taught public school will disagree, and some will agree with my side. What I'm saying is, if you have 100 students that try out for a basketball team and only 21 make it, so for the other 79 students, what it is you're supposed to do? Just not play basketball? There's no intramural, there's no secondary league that they could play, there's no community outreach or community program for those students. You see, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of things can be exclusive as well too in a public school, and everything's not for everybody. But what I'm saying is, for the fringe group, let's say 70% enjoys public school, but 30% do not. That 33 or 30% deserves to have their own form of education, and it deserves to be supported at the same level. So I will stop there. I got plenty of content coming. I was a little bit long-winded with this video. Drop a comment in the comment section on what you feel about the topic that we're talking about. Do you feel public school is fair after hearing this, or do you feel like it's justified to spend this much money? And does the small guy deserve some stake in education? So for example, catering services, upstarts, or the small plumber guy, does he deserve to get a few contracts with schools? Or should the big guy just take all the contracts? I mean, let me know in the comment section. And I really appreciate you guys tuning in on the channel. If you would like to support CeeLo Academy, or if you'd like to support this channel or me, there are support links in the description below. Be ready and stay tuned for the next video, and I'll check you out then. Take care.